Let's talk about some stuff. Today is Tuesday, January 10th. I had class yesterday. I ended up not making a video last night. I forgot to. And actually, I think I forgot to talk about class on Friday, but that was only a lecture day, so it wasn't like a full lab day, so I think that's why I skipped over it. But, yeah, let's talk about not AMD. Well, we're going to talk about AMD as well as ISP. So, the past couple lectures have been pretty cool. I've got my folder open right here. Let's see. I think on Friday we talked about the house system, which is basically, the house engineer and the sound system that's for the crowd. It's what the audience hears. That's the speaker system that basically is the giant PA, the huge columns of speakers that you'll see. And really, gotta say that the house engineering lecture wasn't that, well, it was interesting kind of, but it wasn't that in depth, I think. We just talked about the consoles and what that person has to do, what the engineer, what his responsibilities are. To be honest, this class is it's kind of fun, but I'm definitely a studio person. I have learned in the past couple days that intro or show pro is not my thing. I do enjoy helping out and stuff, but I wouldn't want to make it like my main focus. So anyway, let's see. I'm gonna talk about yesterday a little bit more. Where is it? Here we go. We talked about the monitor system, which actually I don't have the PowerPoint slides for this. I'm sorry, I'm so absent-minded today. I just got done with a big assignment for my online class, and my brain is still kind of fried. I just took a shower, trying to relax. Get some food. Let's see. Trying to gather my thoughts. The monitor system. Basically, this is the system that the artists hear. It's not a very creative job. The monitor engineer has so much stuff to do. I would hate to be a monitor engineer because he's got to make sure that all the microphones are clean, make sure all the the monitor speakers are nice and ready to go, or if you have in-ear monitors, they're cleaned. He's got to know each member of the band or whatever, and it's just kind of a hectic thing. It's definitely kind of what turned me off of it. I definitely would not want to be a monitor engineer. What you up to? Eating a pickle. We're talking about some introduction to show production systems. What do you think about that class?
I'm not in that class.
Oh, well, it's okay. It's an alright class. Yeah, Amina's been doing work on her online homework, and that's really what I spent most of today doing. But we'll get to that in a minute. Your pickle eating is distracting me.
Sorry.
We did her hair today, and she's showing it off. Yeah. I got to paint her hair, essentially. Yeah. Anyway, a lab was the most interesting thing. The lectures for ISP, like I've kind of been saying and repeating myself, I know I do that a lot. But this month, honestly, there's not a whole lot to say, so the videos are going to be kind of sparse. Yeah, anyway, the lectures are kind of dull, in a sense. I've been doing the study guides, and I'll read through the study guide with you here in a minute. But I want to tell you about the lab. The lab was yeah, it's all right. There's like 4 or 5 of us in there, and I got to lab a little early. And this was not the mixing lab that I had last week. I had a mixing lab last week where we pretty much, he was sending a live feed to all of us, and we had to do some live mixing. It was nice to be back on a recording console, and that was way on the other side of campus. Yesterday, we were in the same classroom that I actually have lecture in, which is all the way in Building 4. And it's got a little mini stage, got some speakers left and right, and monitor wedges. We've also got a house board and a console board. I think our monitor board is the Midas Venice, and our house board is the Midas Verona. Both very, very good consoles. And for the first half of lab, we covered the house system. So we basically wired everything up for the house system and did a sound check and then striked it all. And we took a break. Well, actually, before we took a break, we each split up into 2 groups and then redid it. So we set everything up and striked it again. And then we came back from break and did the same thing, but for the monitor system. And like, he asked us, we had to redo the microphone cable or something because we were actually going to talk through the microphone. So I was like, all right, I'll do it. I'll plug it back in. Freaking A, I embarrassed myself because I didn't throw the cable because I didn't want it to like bang and break or something. So with the over-under technique, if you throw the cable wrong, it just gets into a knotted mess. And so like it was bad. I embarrassed myself and it sucked because I didn't throw the cable the right way. But I redeemed myself. When we were rolling out the cables, I was doing it quicker than everybody, and I was doing it neater than everybody. So I did redeem myself. But again, we basically plugged in all the speakers, plugged them into the amps, into the console, patched in our outboard EQs and the RTA that we have for the monitor engineer. We also connected the Q wedge that's up there by the monitor board and did a small sound check with that microphone. And then we again split in 2 groups, and both groups had to set it up and strike it, and that was that. The most interesting part of the lab was I had gotten there a bit early because I thought that it was going to start 15 minutes before it actually did. And this kid walks in the lab, and he says, yeah, man, I got to get out of here by 8 so I can go catch the game. Talking about like the college football championships or whatever it was, I don't know. And so he says this, and then the lab tech looks up and he's like, yeah, well, I don't really give a damn about football, so yeah. And the kid got all quiet. I mean, it was funny. I mean, I was trying not to laugh. I mean, it was probably the highlight of the lab session. Because honestly, it wasn't that exciting at all. We weren't. I mean, it's a lab session that was about plugging in cable. Literally, that's what it was just plugging in the cables. Now, mind you, we had to know where to plug those cables in, but essentially it was just about plugging the cables in. One thing to note is that you should always, when powering things on, always start with your sound source. So start with your console and your drive rack, and then go to your power, your amps, basically, because you don't want to be plugging stuff in and getting the loud pops in your speakers, because it will destroy your stuff, and that's no-no. So yeah, I haven't really had too much fun with the introduction to show production systems just yet. Right now, I'm definitely leaning more towards that. Well, I am going to stick with RA no matter what, but it's definitely letting them know, hey, you're meant to be in a studio or something. Not necessarily the live stuff. Like I said, I like helping out with the live stuff, at least perhaps smaller venues like with Mina's band. But there's no way that I could want to go on tour and all this crazy stuff unless I was getting paid a good, nice sum of money for my work or whatever you want to call it. The ISP, it's going pretty great. Have a quiz tomorrow, studying and whatnot. I've been through the study guide a couple times. I'll read through that right now with you, actually. Let's see. Study guide. Here we go. So we've got some questions. Like the first question is, name the 3 components of the snake and splitter system, which is your main snake, your splitter box, and your fan out. What does PA stand for? Public address. The system for the artists is called the monitor system, and the system for the audience is called the house system. A sub-snake could be used in a small system as the main snake. Yeah, it's true. A splitter is not required to run 2 separate systems. It's false. So let's see. Which engineer is responsible for the artist's mix? That's the band engineer. Name a large format live console. How about the Midas XL4? That's a good one. Let's see. What piece of equipment does not belong at the front of house area? The splitter does not belong up there. Name one good mix position. Somewhere in the middle of the floor. How about that? So on average, it takes an engineer about 15 minutes to prep an artist for a show. Or that's about how much time they have anyway. We have to know a little signal flow, just dealing with the house console, the drive rack, and like inserts and whatnot. The Midas Verona is our house console. The Verona has 8 auxiliary sends, 8 subgroups, and 4 matrix outputs, which is very nice. And one of the questions here is, what is the primary purpose of the matrix? And that is to send signal to additional sound system components. We also have a monitor section study guide. The first question is, the monitor engineer has creative control over how each artist's mix will sound, and that is false. We're using what function can use any house console as a monitor console? The auxiliary sends. The primary purpose for a mix EQ is feedback, reduction, or elimination. That's true. And there's more questions than that. There's a lot of questions. I'm just kind of reading through some of them just to give you an idea. In-ear monitors are really cool. They eliminate a lot of problems from the monitor system. Feedback is one of the biggest ones. But we talked about those. Apparently Kelly Clarkson really does not like her in-ear monitors. We checked out, he showed us a video of Kelly Clarkson and her IEMs, and she was like popping them out all the time. It's kind of funny. Let's jump on over to AMD. The big assignment that I just got done with is worth 10%, so it's 10 points for the month. And it was about bouncing and printing. I had to download some assets from the website from, was it FSO? And of course it came with a pre-made logic session, and you just had to follow the directions. And basically bouncing is re-recording a track in a DAW. So like you have, let's say on your track 1 you have a MIDI file, and bouncing it would be recording that MIDI track to an audio file on track number 2, for example. And we had to use a bunch of routing stuff with the buses and labeling and documentation. We had to fill out this thing called a digital track sheet. Oh god, that was annoying. I probably spent maybe a half hour to 45 minutes just filling out paperwork on the session. And then the session itself took about a good hour to an hour and a half to file through. Oh, pain in my butt. And like it got really jumbled because we had to do bouncing of all the MIDI tracks, and then we had to do wet and dry mix of 3 other tracks, and that got confusing to keep those nice and organized as to what was what. And that is where keeping notes comes in handy. In the Logic Mixer, there's this little tiny button down in the bottom left corner of the mixer, and if you press it, it opens up a notes thing. So underneath each channel strip, you can write in a note about that channel strip. It's pretty cool, and I didn't know that until like the end of the assignment when I was supposed to use it. But had I known, I definitely would have written notes hardcore to keep myself organized. So next time I have to do that, I know that I need to write notes. And really, it was I had more fun doing the stuff for AMD than I did in the lab yesterday for ISP. And that told me something too. Like, even though at times, like earlier tonight, I was getting pretty frustrated because I would have to go back and fix stuff and type stuff, but I was loving it at the same time. I love doing that work with Logic and in the computer and all that type of stuff. For now, and this video was kind of a crappy, sucky video. So if you stuck with it or stuck through it with me, I do thank you for checking it out. Again, if you have any questions or anything about Full Sail or whatever, just let me know. Do not hesitate. I make these videos for a reason to hopefully help somebody out there. Hopefully help you decide if you want to go to this place. I definitely do recommend it. I love it. It's not for everybody. I mean, I'll be straight up. Like, a lot of people can't hang with what we have going on here. But if you're serious about basically making a name for yourself in this business, then and you're willing to work hard and put the hours into it, it's probably the place to be. One thing to note is that I have maintained since my start in July. I have a 4.0 grade average or GPA, grade point average. So I've gotten A pluses consistently since I started. So I've put in the hours. I do the work. I take notes, pay attention, and study. Um, so, if there's anybody that I think is qualified to talk about the school, it's me. And I don't mean to sound full of myself, but I'm just letting you know, like, if you're like, well, who is this guy? Is this kind of like a person that like doesn't really play around, or that does play around a lot? Well, no, I do not play around a lot when it comes to school. Like I said, I do have a 4.0 GPA, and I definitely make the most out of my time here because I don't have much of it. So I'm trying to give you as much real feedback as I can. Honestly, like I said, the introduction to Show Pro is kind of not really. It's kind of for me right now, but hopefully that'll get better once we start doing harder and more challenging things. So until then, I've actually got a quiz tomorrow. I'll hit you up with a video tomorrow on that, or actually Thursday, because I have lecture tomorrow and then lab on Thursday. Anyway, yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time.